Now to the Middle East crisis and the man who was the symbol of the failure to prevent the deadliest attack in Israel's history. Netanyahu's head of military intelligence has resigned. The major general is the highest-ranking Israeli official to step down since the Hamas-led attack back on October 7th. This resignation, happening as a special State Department panel here in our nation's capital, is also recommending to sanction Israeli military units linked to human rights abuses. Let's bring in our foreign correspondent, Tom Soufi-Burge in Tel Aviv, along with our senior national policy reporter, Ann Flaherty. So, Tom, let's just talk about the resignation, first of all, of this major general. Do you think he is the sole person responsible for the lack of intelligence that led to that Hamas attack back on October 7th? Or do you think he's just taking the fall for the prime minister?
Well, he's certainly not the sole person responsible for that intelligence failure, Kira. I mean, he's definitely one of the top people in charge at the time. I mean, as you said, he headed up military intelligence. He's still in charge at the moment, but he is going to resign. And he's the first senior military officer to resign in connection with those intelligence failures for the deadliest terror attack in Israeli history. I mean, in his resignation letter, he effectively says that the intelligence directorate of the IDF simply didn't live up to the task. And he says he'll carry that black day with him forever. But just to remind people, look, the Israeli intelligence had a document which they codenamed the Jericho Wall, and effectively they had that about a year before the attack actually happened, and it was in effect a blueprint of Hamas's plan. It really was a sort of premonition of the actual tactics that Hamas ended up deploying to get over the border fence, to storm into southern Israel and to massacre 1,200 people and take hundreds of hostages. There were other intelligence failures too, unusual SIM card, cell phone activity in the hours running up to it, warnings from surveillance officers, mainly female surveillance officers, down on the Gaza border to their superiors, which were ultimately ignored. So there's a massive, massive intelligence failure, and although he's the first person to resign, the first senior military officer, I don't think he'll be the last.
So, and the U.S. is set now to make this decision on whether to withhold military aid to Israeli units that have been accused of human rights abuse. What more do we know about exactly what they're being accused of doing?
Yeah, Kira, this would be a big deal if this happens. We heard from Secretary Blinken saying that he was considering it, and we've seen reporting that there was one unit in particular, an IDF battalion, accused of torture, operating in the West Bank. This is prior to October 7th, which I think is an important thing to note. But there have been questions about how this battalion has handled itself. Now, under U.S. law, we're not allowed to give federal money to military units that are accused of gross human rights violations. So the question is whether or not this has triggered this law, which is called the Leahy Act. Blinken says he's looking at it. He's going to make a determination in coming days. We know he's speaking right now, but we're not expecting to hear any news on that today. We do expect it later this week, Kira.
All right. Ann, thank you. Tom, appreciate you.